On tonight's program, we learn what it takes to encourage students to lead a life of service. I'm Tom Landon. Ferrum College is a private liberal arts college founded in 1913, and it has always been a place where students come to learn not only facts and concepts, but to, quote, enter with promise and leave with purpose. It's a place that seems to embrace its rural origins while preparing students to succeed in the modern world, and I'm delighted to be joined by the president of the college, Dr. Mirta Martin. She's still relatively new to the area. I'm honored to be able to introduce her to our viewers. Welcome, Dr. Martin.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I do try to, when I can, schedule conversations with college presidents because I think you hold a more important place in the community than a lot of us recognize because you are responsible for, so many decisions made by young people in our area and hopefully who will stay around our area and serve here. I always like to start with a background question. I know you've got a great one. So, where did you grow up? How did you end up at Ferrum?
Well, it really is, it's a long story, and I'll kind of come real close and short. I was born in Cuba, and I left when I was 6 with my grandmother and my sister. We were allowed by the communist regime to leave the island, leaving behind the entire family. We were shipped via Spain. My family is from Spain, and there we were met at the airport by a group of nuns who took us into their convent, thinking that the rest of the family would follow shortly thereafter. 8 years later, I was still terrorizing those nuns with my sister, and regrettably my family had not left. So the American embassy told my grandmother that perhaps if we came to the United States as American citizens and as minors, we might be able to get our family out. So on a leap of faith, my grandmother picked us up and brought us to this country. When we arrived, like many immigrant families and many families still today, American families still today, my grandmother worked 2 full-time jobs. I went to high school like many of my kids now at Ferrum College did, and I worked a full-time job like many of my kids at Ferrum College did. I did not speak a word of English, and we were talking about the impact of teachers earlier. Had it not been for a teacher who took me under her wing, who taught me how to look at colleges and apply to colleges, at a time when my grandmother kept saying to me, in America, the pathway forward is with a college education. And she was working 2 jobs. I was working a full-time job on Sundays. We'd get up, go to church, and then we go to clean homes. And it was the money from cleaning those homes that put food on our table. And sometimes we went hungry, not because we weren't working every possible hour, just life happened.
Now, as she encouraged you to go to college, did you feel, I can imagine as a young person who's contributing to the family, did you feel guilt about that? Did you say, this is just something I've got to do?
No, I really did. As I said, we were not making ends meet. And my salary was not to buy clothes or to go to the movies. My salary was to contribute to the household, as it is for so many people today, for so many families still today. And so sometimes I knew that the pathway forward was through an education, but how do you get there? How do you navigate the American educational system when no one in your family has gone to college? When you don't have the money to buy sometimes a loaf of bread? But a teacher took me under her wing, and that teacher taught me. That teacher wrote the check at a time that I had no money, that my grandmother had no money. And it was that check that I attached to my application to Duke University, and that's what started my journey. As I left for Duke, my mother and 2 brothers were allowed to leave the island. The rest of the family was not. My grandfathers, my aunts, my uncles, cousins, all stayed behind. My father stayed behind and died in Cuba. He died in Cuba last year. We were never able to reunite ourselves. And at Duke, I'd met my husband, who is from Richmond. We met freshman week. We started dating by Christmas, and 4 years later, when we graduated, we were married. And as I say to the students, now my kids at Ferrum College, do as I say and not as I did. Because while it worked well for us, being married at such a young age was difficult. My grandmother then came back to me and said I started working in the banking industry, actually with a bank that was headquartered here, Dominion Bank.
Dominion Bank,
That's
yes. But
exactly
when I moved
right.
to Roanoke, they were the
They were the
hottest thing
big,
going.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right. And, but my grandmother said, in America, the little piece of paper, that diploma, opens doors. And I don't know about you, but you don't say no to your grandmother, and I didn't.
That's right.
So I started my journey down the master's, and I earned an MBA, and then my daughter was born, and then she said, you're going to continue down that PhD. You don't say no to your grandmother.
Right.
So I did, and I earned a PhD in business strategy, and my son was born. And then my husband and I talked about it, and we believe that there's a couple of things that one as parents can give our children. The first one is our faith, our values. The second one is an education. And so having earned my doctorate, I entered higher ed, and that's a crooked road through education that leaves me here today to visit with you.
Along the crooked road in Ferrum,
Along
right?
the crooked road to Ferrum.
Ferrum has a reputation of being a good home for first-generation college
Yes.
students. I know there are legacy students there as well,
Absolutely.
but how does a campus, how does an organization work to make sure that those students who arrive without maybe the background that those kids who go to other colleges and have been on a lot of visits and maybe have siblings who went to college, how do you make your campus, your environment welcoming so that you don't lose them? Because that first year is really critical, isn't it?
It is that. You and I can talk here far longer than we have time. Ferrum College is a magical place. It is a place where people become family, where our motto of not self but others are not just words written on a page, they're a way of life. We're a small boutique institution, that's our calling card. We don't want to be any larger. We are about 1,300. We may get to about 1,500, but that's it, because we want to make sure that we know each and every one of our students. And we do. And so with small classes of 10 to 12, our faculty get to know our students, their wishes, their desires, their challenges. And so they nurture them, but they also provide them wings so that they can soar to new heights. We have a myriad of opportunities, many more than sometimes some of even the larger schools, because of the population that we serve, and we're proud of them. Whether it's a free tutoring center, a writing center, a mathematics center, a career center, these are all available to our students. They are provided the minute that they step on campus with a success coach, with an academic advisor, with a career coach, so that we can nurture them as they join a larger group of individuals, because in essence we're a small family, but it's larger than what they come from. And so, we're nestled amidst 800 beautiful acres of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And because of that, our faculty, our staff live around the campus. So when they come to teach, they don't just come and lecture. They come and they engage our students. They have a conversation. And then when that class is over, they're still around to talk to them. They eat in the dining hall. They support them through their plays in theater, or their choir concerts and music, or their science presentations, or the 22 sports that we field through the ODAC conferences. And so, yes, we're there to give them a second to none education, which we do, but we're also there to ensure that when they leave our campus, they are indeed our greatest ambassadors, and they have the ability to transform the world. And we are proud to be able to graduate principal values leaders who have indeed that ability to change that world into which they're going to go into.
Yeah, and I know from my visits to Ferrum, which are infrequent, but I always enjoy them when I get there.
You have to come back.
I'm coming. Well, I'll be coming back here shortly to record some footage for this program, and I am always struck by the diversity of the student body. You think of Ferrum, especially the Ferrum of maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, compared to when you walk on campus now, and you could just tell by looking, these kids come from all over. What is the student you're looking for when your folks are out looking for a new class of freshmen? What are they looking for?
We're looking for a student who wants to obtain a second to none education, somebody who has passion and grit, who has persistence, who understands the value of an education. In April, we affirmed our roots as the College of Opportunity in Virginia by launching our Panther Promise, which affords qualifying Virginia residents free tuition. We were founded 110 years ago by the women of the United Methodist Church. So I often speak about our founding mothers. How often can you speak about founding mothers?
Right.
Founding fathers, perhaps, but founding mothers. But those ladies envisioned a college of opportunity for students in the region. And so yes, we draw a great percentage of our students from the Blue Ridge region. But then we stretch out to Southwest Virginia, to Northern North Carolina, to South Carolina. We go on to Richmond and the Tidewater area. We go up to Northern Virginia, and people say, Northern Virginia, well, there's parts of Loudoun County that are very rural.
Very rural.
Still
I think
today.
Of places like, I have a good friend who lives in Lovettsville, which is
Yes,
as rural as you can get.
Absolutely, and Maryland, so that's kind of our geography. And our students want to be part of a family. About 50% of our students are student athletes. About 61%.
That seems like 50% are student athletes. I just want to stop you there for a second, because that seems like a very large number of students who are participating in an NCAA sports.
Division III sport. And it is, and you know what we find, when I walk around and I visit with alumni, I joke with them because I say, I'm going to change our motto from not self but others, but were it not for Ferrum College, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Right.
Part of that is when you bring in a student athlete, they already know how to multitask. They're focused. They just need to have a little bit of guidance, sometimes just a little bit of hand-holding that freshman year. And so for us, those students are not numbers, they're individuals. I say to the parents, when you drop your child at Ferrum College, they become my child. They become our child. And then I look to the kids and I say, and I become your worst nightmare, because I'm going to make sure that you graduate.
Right.
That's really important. We often talk about getting to college. That's but the beginning of the journey. And as I say to the students, your journey starts with that first step, but the goal is to graduate from college. To every single family that walks on Ferrum College, and every single student has my business card. My business card has my personal cell and my personal email. And the kids have my personal cell and they have my personal email. And when I first started to do that, someone said to me, you must be crazy. You're going to get 3,000 emails. And they don't abuse it. But life doesn't happen between 9 and 5. It happens at 3 a.m. in the morning. And that parent that's in Richmond, in Northern Virginia, in Raleigh, in South Carolina, wherever it is, needs to know that there is someone at that college that can get to their child in 5 minutes. I live on the college campus, right on the quad. And so the kids know that if I'm at home, the light on the porch is on. That's an invitation for them to come in, to tell me what I don't want to hear, to just give me a hug, to tell me that they passed that exam that they thought they weren't going to do so well and that they aced it. Sometimes the greatest time of the year is when the the teams begin to text me because there's 2 or 3 or 4 games all at the same time. Dr. Martin, you're going to come to my game? It's like, yes, I'm going to come here, and then there, and then there, and then there.
Well, and I
That's
can
what makes
say,
us
as
unique.
you know, as a parent of 2 fine children who went to college, they went to big universities. I went to a big university. My wife went to a big university. There were problems. There were a couple times when I would have loved to have been able to call somebody when my kid was in crisis, and so that's a really important.
It is.
That's a really important thing. As you came to Ferrum and you arrived here, every college campus has its own kind of quirks and things that are unique to it. What are the traditions of Ferrum that have surprised you, or some colleges have a place where you don't step on that block, or you don't do those things. So what's at Ferrum that we should be aware of that are quirky?
I don't know that they're quirky. I think actually they're nice. For example, because of agriculture is one of our largest majors, as you can imagine. I mean, we've got not just 800 acres, but we have 2 great big farms where we teach horticulture and aquaculture and hydroponics, and then of course we've got the animal husbandry farm where they grow animals from insemination to sale. One of the things that our kids do is they grow fish, trout to be specific. And so in the fall they start growing the trout and they start naming them and kissing them, and this is Johnny and this is Susie. And then in the spring, about March or April, the beginning, they put it into our lake. We are the only school in Virginia with a lake, in case you didn't know that. That is filled with trout. And so the kids then come to the lake and they have fish and release for about 6 weeks so that they can measure the trouts, they can make sure they're being acclimated to the water systems, and so on and so forth. And then after the 6th week, then it's catch and eat. So we put smokers all around. And what's really neat, my office overlooks the lake. You see families with small children. You see our students in their canoes in the middle of the lake catching those fish.
I might want that date to come
Okay,
down and
come
have some smoked trout.
between April and May. Another tradition that I think is really neat, and we're getting ready, we do it every football game, but this weekend, October 21st, that's coming up, it's homecoming. And so we have tail alley gate, and the football team comes down the tailgate alley, and it is the most emotional. You see this army of young men, all in uniform, being cheered on through this alley, through parents, through grandparents, by faculty, by staff, by the community. And that's something that I would be remiss, not just our alumni. Our community are so engaged. They give our students internships. They afford them the opportunity to learn their trade, which is something that we not only just instill in our students, the pedagogy of the discipline of the major that they're studying, but also we give them life skills. So, a management course, for example, we have industry badges that we launched this fall. So in a management course, that student may graduate, also not graduate, but rather when they finish the course, they may have a Office 365 certification or a Cisco certification, or they took that computer course, it's a cybersecurity certification. So now we're telling industry, not only do they have a superb education, liberal arts, faith-based education, because we're a faith-based school, but also they have this industry-ready skills that they can on-ramp immediately onto whatever employment it is that they seek.
Sure. And I know that, Ferrum is a kind of a place apart. You have to drive a little ways to get there.
Now, only 8 miles off the expressway.
Right, that's
Not
true.
all that much.
And you're not far from both the town of Rocky Mount and the city
That's
of
right.
Roanoke. What is the college's relationship to the surrounding localities?
I think it's wonderful. Both Ferrum and Rocky Mount have embraced our kids. Ferrum College is the college of Franklin County. And so our students feel very much at home. as part of that community, the community, whether it's Rocky Mount, whether it's Ferrum, whether it's the adjacent communities, even those counties that are like Patrick or Henry or Fluvanna, those people, Callaway, you know, they are part of Ferrum College. They're part of the family of Ferrum College. So, you know, when we say we're forged as one, again, they're not words. People come in because they know that this is a destination of choice for faculty, for staff, for students, for the community at large. The town of Rocky Mount is espousing a Welcome Home Panthers banner across their main street. You don't see that everywhere, but you see that because Ferrum College is a destination and it's family.
Well, and I know that, you know, the culture, there's a lot of culture in Rocky Mount in terms of the Harvester Music Center and some of the other things, but college campuses are cultural hubs, right?
Yes.
Because you have theater, because you have, you bring in world-renowned people, so.
We do, and you know, our theater department normally partners with the community. We have an elementary school right across the street.
Right.
So we have the little children come over and they're part of our productions, and we invite them to come in. We have the community that comes in. Our choir does the same thing. Our band, we're very proud of our band. It's the only band of the type. It's a bluegrass brass explosion band. And we're proud because it invites all genre of music, all sorts of students who just love to play music. And we're very proud of the fact that they're going to be the opening act at the NASCAR at Martinsville in a couple of weekends. Playing the Star Spangled Banner. You know, it's that type of opportunity that you're able to obtain at a small institution.
Sure, and it emphasizes, I mean, you are on the Crooked Road, the music venue, the music trail that runs from, I think it starts at your, I don't know if it starts in your Folk Life Institute or not, but near there all the way into
and speaking of that, you know, the Blue Ridge Institute and Museum celebrates its 50th anniversary this year. Our Folk Life Festival that's coming up as well, 50th anniversary. That's part of the culture. That's part of the heritage of the college.
And it's such a fantastic resource. Here at we have utilized the Blue Ridge Folk Life Institute many times. We have a series that launched this year, Life in Blue Ridge in Virginia's Appalachia, produced by our producer Sadie Pettit, and she has, I know she's worked closely with Roddy there, and Roddy Moore and others, and the archives are treating our culture as real culture. Right?
There you go, and something that we have to be proud of. It's who we are. It's part of the region, and we need to shout it to the world. And so we're very, very proud that our BRIM, our Blue Ridge Institute and Museum, has collections that nowhere on the face of the earth, certainly not nowhere.
No, things they gathered and documented, if they had not gathered and documented them, they would have been lost, and I know they continue to do that. We have just a few minutes left, but we still have a little time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the service work that your students and your faculty do with your community and the larger global community.
Well, constantly. You know, as I've shared now 2 or 3 times, our motto is not self but others. And they're not words on a page, they're a way of life for us. And so from the minute that they come in, our students come in, they are introduced to a life of service, whether it's freshman week packing meals for local food banks. During freshman week of this year, we packed 50,000 meals, whether it's packing backpacks for children across the street that they needed for their academic years, whether it's the day of service that we have at Ferrum College in the fall and the spring, where the entire faculty, staff, students, faculty emerita just descend on the college to mulch it, to spruce it up, to do whatever, both in the spring and in the fall. It gives students pride for what they're doing. It gives students ownership of what they're doing, but it also teaches our students that in life it's much better to give than it is to receive. And I can tell you that for our students, it has become a way of life. Just this weekend, we left Ferrum College about 5 a.m. in the morning to support Special Olympics. We got back about 10 o'clock at night. We took about 60 kids, 3 buses, who spent the entire day, despite the fact that they had They had homework, and it was a very, 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 very long day. I went with them, and I was ready to pass out. They went because it was their way to give back, to make a difference. And that's who we are. That's who Ferrum College is. It's a destination of choice because of our people of excellence on our programs of distinction.
We're down to just the very last moments of the program. So, you know, if you could, if there was one thing you wanted that would be helpful to you, or that you wanted people to know about Ferrum in your last few seconds, what would that be?
I want everyone to know that at Ferrum, we welcome each and every student with open arms, that it is a destination, that it is a home, and that at Ferrum College, there are always going to be individuals. There will never be a number. And when they go out into the world, they're going to go out as young men and women with very strong character, with very strong values, with an incredible education and industry-ready skills, ready to transform the world.
Well stated. And as we conclude the program, I just want to thank Dr. Mirta Martin for taking the time to introduce herself to me and to you, and I hope it's the first of many visits to the station for her. For What It Takes, I'm Tom Landon.
Thank you.